All right, how's it going out there, folks? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to a few out there. It is the 11:57 a.m. local time here, Sunday, still in the morning, just around noontime, October 19th, 2025. Here's the date. Latest activity has a 4.2 earthquake coming into the big island of Hawaii. It looks like on the west side here, off on the coast, or just off the coast here, 27 miles deep. Now, most of the time when we get these earthquakes of that depth there, at being that deep, it's associated with the weight of the Hawaii Islands upon the Pacific Plate. There's a lot more to the Hawaii Islands than what this map shows you. So you have to go to the ocean terrain map. You can see the old Hawaii Islands out here throughout time, obviously. As the Pacific Plate moves off to the northwest, that hot spot will continue to build. Roughly, it looks like it may continue in this fashion down here. But these deeper earthquakes, most of the time, have to do, again, with the weight of the Hawaii Islands themselves on the Pacific Plate. But that one's at 27 miles deep. I don't know. Has this been upgraded or updated? It has been reviewed. It is in the zone, obviously, of a lot of earthquake activity. Really nothing super deep out here, but we'll continue to watch that. Most of the time, the deeper activity is triggering underneath the Pahala area, associated with the plumbing system and whatnot that occurs down underneath this area. But this is just a little odd one. I don't think we've had anything too major out here. 4.2 looks like that is the largest quake here in the last 30 days, and roughly about the deepest as well. We had a couple other earthquakes there in the 25-mile range below the surface level, or the sea surface level. But far as the rest of the globe goes, let's take a look and see what we have going on the earthquake 3D globe. 5.3. Where is that 5.3? Out in the red flag here around the Solomon Islands area, it looks like. A little bit of quake activity filling in here overnight. Also some newer deep activity here on the backside of the subduction zone. It's in between, it's right around the Japan area. Nankai Trough still pretty quiet. Let's go ahead and take a look at the rest of the west coast out here, see what we got going on for California. A couple earthquakes up here in the Sierra Nevada mountains near Bishop. It's going to be a little 2.1. Really nothing above 2.5 out there today. A couple smaller quakes down in Southern California, but I don't see any unusual movement happening out here right now. A couple smaller quakes there at the southern end of the Cascadia subduction zone. Really nothing big going on there for now. Washington area, well, they're actually reporting a couple small microquakes out here north of Seattle today. There's a couple earthquakes there from yesterday around Mount St. Helens. It looks like somebody maybe had some extra time on their Saturday night, went back and added these quakes up to the map after review. So I'm kind of curious to see here. I'm going to go over to the Mount St. Helens seismograph station, and we'll check out these two earthquakes. It looks like they're really close here in proximity to this seismograph station, so we'll see what they look like. So that was at about 11 o'clock last night or so, right? 2342 for this one's pretty deep though, underneath this area. That could have something to do with the magma chamber down there. 3.2 miles. There's another deeper one south here. Getting some interesting activity here at Mount St. Helens recently. So 2353 or so. That's going to be maybe this one, but that's, I don't know. It's a pretty deep earthquake, so it may not be this one. But there's, as you could see, there's definitely some earthquake activity stirring up out there. Let me get back to the current period. That's this morning. A couple smaller ones here. There's one there at it's hard to tell. These lines are all crazy looking. About 7 o'clock or so last night. Little 0.1. Anyway, Nothing big going on here, just some periodic earthquake activity, and it looks like we're getting some deeper movement quakes in there as well. Up at Mount Rainier, really nothing shown up here on the map, but we will double check this, see what we have. Yeah, what is this quake here about 2 o'clock in the morning or so? That's up at Mount Rainier. Was there anything in the vicinity at 2 o'clock in the morning? There's 3 o'clock, but it's not going to be that one. Looks like something stirred up there around 2 o'clock or so. A couple earthquakes out there, I would say. Notice these well distinguished lines here on the chart, on the graph. Those are earthquakes. I believe that may be some earthquake activity as well. So things may be picking up. I mean, this is starting to look a little bit like not quite the July area. When back in July we had hundreds of earthquakes stirring up here. I'll show you a map from that time period. This again is at Mount Rainier. I'm sure you guys heard about this swarm going on. It never really completely went away. I've been watching this, ever since. Well, I watch these charts all the time, but ever since the swarm stirred up there in July, I've been keeping a close eye out here, and the swarm never really went away. Nothing like what we've seen in July, but yeah, it's we still have some earthquake activity occurring out there, as you can see on the graph, and zip zero nada being reported. All right, let's see here. Nothing going on in Yellowstone, but it's a weekend. Remember, certain areas, they won't show anything until Monday morning, even if it's like a 2.0. It's got to be above a 2.5 threshold for it to pop up here on the map on the weekends for whatever reason. That's just how it's been, and that's probably how it will continue to be. I don't know why they don't adjust the preliminary data system there to at least show some of the smaller quakes. Let's see. So we're going to double check the seismograph stations there, and it looks pretty quiet around YML, which is this station. There was a swarm close to this area a couple days back. We'll check out YMC, and things look pretty quiet out here as well. Maybe a couple very small microquakes, but nothing of noteworthy value there across Yellowstone National Park. Super volcano. People always ask me, how come you cover Yellowstone? Well, a lot of people actually don't know Yellowstone is a super volcano, and it does have potential. If that thing ever went off, man, we'd be talking about some global consequences. Oil fields, they're rocking and rolling still. Yesterday, we had a handful of threes out here in the area outside Pecos, Texas to the west. Pretty good cluster going on out here in this oil field operation. But aside from that, New Madrid seismic zone quiet. One little earthquake there near Rossman, North Carolina. That's from yesterday, though. So let's take a look here, see what we got for some further global activity. A lot of newer activity here around the Philippines again. Still getting a bunch of aftershock activity. Southward here into the Indonesia area, back across the around the Solomon Islands area. Pretty good cluster going on there today. New Zealand and up around the Tonga Trench, quiet for now, but that should fill in. A handful of aftershocks there up in the Kamchatka area of Russia. Open here across the Japan region. Like I say, keep an eye here on the Nankai Trough. I've been saying it, but man, it had a huge swarm here a couple months back, and then a huge swarm around the area last year, and no big earthquake on it, but it's got potential. And then all of a sudden it's just completely locked and quiet across this area right now. Let's see, Middle America Trench and the South America area. Middle America Trench, South America, the Peru-Chile Trench down here. All those these two subduction zones look typical. Just some twos and occasional threes out there. Nothing big going on there for now. That's very typical for that area on any given day. A handful of earthquakes up in, where is that one now? That's kind of an odd area. Looks like maybe northern Algeria. Is that right? Maybe back over here a little bit. Either way, it looks like it's occurring on this plate boundary around the Mediterranean Sea south there. Some interesting earthquake activity. Nothing big, just 4.5 and a 3.6 coming in. Some further activity around Turkey with a 4 and a couple threes. Indian Ocean, 4.9 out there across that rift boundary. See the oceanic crust being formed throughout time, further increasing the area out here. That's just crazy earthquake though. 4.2 earthquake. I wonder if anybody felt that out there. It's fairly deep, so well, it does look like it was felt out there across the Big Island. Quite a few folks reported feeling that quake. Quite a bit, actually. All right, let's check out space weather activity here real quick. Going down, as expected. All right, we talked about that active sunspot area now no longer on the Earth-facing side of the sun. That is way out there. That's going to be this area. This one's gone as well. So things will drop as far as the solar flare activity goes. But let's see what we got for the complexity model or the magnetogram image. This is from, it's somewhat recent. This area obviously much further back over here. That's why I'm saying it's not really the latest imagery. So these could be more complex. It could be weakening. But looking at this area back here, there is what looks like some complexity here with the magnetic structure of that sunspot. Different colors here indicating the polarity differences in 4257. And that looks like it's starting to grow a little bit. We may want to watch that region here in the coming days. Right now, these guys showing a flare threat at 25%. That's pretty low. I'm keeping mine around 40 or so. X-flare at 5% chance or so, which is probably about right for now. No major coronal holes facing us. In fact, the one that was facing us here a couple days ago that seemed to stir up a bunch of earthquake activity here on the planet is obviously way out here across the western area of the sun. And there's not a whole lot coming around as far as any new coronal holes. A quick glance here at the far side of the sun. Latest imagery here is a couple days old, so this does us really no good. There's the two active areas that are now off on the western limb. Excuse me. There is one region over here, a fairly large area, not yet visible here on the eastern side here of the sun. Looks fairly large in coverage area, so we'll have to watch that once it gets a little bit further into view. No major auroras in the forecast for now, but let's see what we got. Yeah, things pretty quiet across the board. A little bit of aurora activity yesterday around this time, but that never really continued through the evening here across the North American side. Quick glance at the next close approach asteroids, if there is any. It's just something I like to do every day, is a double check, see if they've added any, huge rocks out there in space that are coming close to our home planet. But I don't see anything right now. This one's about 278,000 miles, which is still fairly safe, 50 foot. Everything else here is millions of miles away. As far as severe weather goes today, just a little, well, not little, it's fairly lengthy, broad coverage area for marginal risk. There's a little 2% chance for some tornado activity up there around New York, Philadelphia, Baltimore area. Also some down there across Florida. Main threat, though, yeah, looks like that wind threat and just a potential there for some tornado activity. Nothing big, just those moderate or minor severe weather events that's possible there today. Looking at the forecast here, been watching the West Coast. Man, I'm really wanting this to look better because I was hoping for an atmospheric river event out here across Northern California. It looks like it's primarily going to stay north. Look at those rainfall accumulation rates along the coast of Oregon and Washington up to the BC area. Heavy-duty rainfall. Northern California just gets some a couple crumbs and some sprinkles of rain. Nothing big. That's a GFS model. There is another one that comes behind that, but look at that rain shadow there in the valley. Just the direction, how that system's coming in here, just it creates a big rain shadow for the Sacramento Valley. So we get gypped when it comes to accumulation of rain here in the valley. So hopefully that changes. But that's just the GFS, the ECMWF model. Let's see if this goes out that far yet. 23rd, 24th, 25th. This one shows at least some decent precipitation here. Not much of a rain shadow effect there, but not not anything like they had planned as far as heavy rainfall. Let's see here, precipitation, total accumulated precipitation run here. Well, I'll take anything at this point, I guess. Let's see, these guys really not showing all that much on there. These guys are actually even more lenient when it comes to any rainfall. GFS. Yeah, see. Man, I hope that changes there. Anyway, when we go back here and look at the Pacific Jet, got to go out here to the regions. North America, upper dynamics here shows how the jet patterns can stream right into the west coast here and bring these atmospheric river events. Here's the one on the 25th right there. It still looks like it's aimed right at Northern California. So this may change up a little bit. It's fairly lengthy and broad system as far as the jet speed goes. These are some upper level winds that enhance and stir up the lows that come in here to the west coast. Let's see, and it goes there, and then maybe another one coming up here, it looks like. Looping around and doing all sorts of crazy stuff. Those upper level winds there can definitely affect the weather all over the place. So things are changing out here. Look at this super deep low pressure. That's probably going to bring some colder air down for this area of the country first week of November. All right, let's see here. What else we got? Anything else going on for earthquake activity? It looks pretty quiet. There's one earthquake on Anza right now. That's down in Southern California. Let's see if it picked it up. I believe it's going to be this one. A little 0.8 at 12:07. And I believe that matches that time frame here. 12:07. Yeah, there's 5, 6, 7. Little 0.8 showing up on the seismograph station there, but that ANSA station I have is probably pretty close here to that earthquake for it to be picked up like that. Anyway, quiet day out here. Not gonna I don't even know if I want to mention this or not. I look at a lot of social media stuff, and I'm sure you guys do too when it comes to earthquake activity and whatnot that this channel covers, but someone out here was saying that there's a big earthquake guaranteed to happen here in the Bay Area, this morning. And I would hate the feeling that I would feel after saying that and then not having it happen. We're always looking at potential areas to watch because of a bunch of movement around it. But I don't think I've ever said that Tokyo, Japan is guaranteed to get an earthquake today of a large magnitude. It's just, I can't do that. But some people out here do. I couldn't imagine the feeling and embarrassment, I guess, of making a statement like that, because you really can't exactly 100% predict earthquakes. We see earthquakes go up when there's interesting space weather. When there's swarms around the area, like around the Philippines recently, we've seen an increasing amount of movement up here. It was working its way northward, and I said to watch that area up here. I didn't say there was going to be another big earthquake. I just said we should probably watch that maybe for some further movement up this area, and then sure enough it did. But the word guarantee, that's like writing your name in stone, like putting your name out there, and it's not good. Who knows? Maybe maybe that person's still right. Maybe that happened here today. Just never know. I don't see it. I mean, it's possible, right? It's very possible because of the amount of time that has passed out here across the West Coast since a big earthquake. But guarantee, there really is no guarantee. 4.8 coming into the Russia area right now, although that's in the last hour. That just USGS a little late here to the party, but yeah, look at that. It's the 11:27, almost an hour ago. Anyway, folks, we'll keep an eye on things. Hope everyone enjoys the rest of their weekend out there. We'll see you guys out here for the Sunday night update. One more day. Tomorrow's actually a member drawing here, so get in on the member drawing. How many members we got out here? Let's see. Where is our members? Something looks different here. What happened? Huh. No, I don't want to. Oh, goodness. All right. I'm going to jump off here. How long does Aftershocks last? That's a very good question. That can last for, days, months, if not years, depending on if it's a big area like the 8.8 that's been having earthquake activity, started off in the beginning of July with a swarm of foreshocks, including a 7.4. Then we all know 10 days later it kicked off an 8.8, and this is still having aftershock activity, months later, and that could continue, for months further, if not years. Sometimes that does happen. But when they increase in magnitude, similar to what we've seen in July, how we had a bunch of 5s and then a 6 or so, and then it popped off a 7.4, and everyone thought that was it, the biggest one. And I kept focusing in on this area just because the unusual amount of aftershock activity and the magnitudes. I firmly believed at the time that something bigger was happening, and 10 days later, we got that 8.8. So it all depends on how the aftershock activity occurs and behaves. If the multitude and magnitudes are increasing, the likelihood of something bigger is much higher. The percentages go way up when we see what happened back in July. And similar to the Japan earthquake there in 2011, we've seen a very similar event. But instead of it taking 10 days from the foreshock activity to the big 9.0, or 9.1, I believe it was, it only took 3 days. So things are calming down here across the Philippines to an extent, but we still have to kind of watch that there. In the last 7 days, we've got, well, that doesn't even show the 7-pointer. That will include the 7-pointer. But that northward migration here was the only concern that I have. This activity was previous to all this movement down south here. So that leads me to believe maybe we're still not quite done yet up here across this area of the Philippine Trench. And remember, 7.4, you would need, I think it's 31 7.4s. Yeah, 31 7.4 magnitude earthquakes to equal the energy of a single 8.0. And the Philippine Trench there is very capable of producing an 8.0 or greater earthquake. And it's definitely been some time since they've had a big earthquake like that. So, but for now, the aftershock sequences are continuing, just at a lighter note, but we will continue to monitor and keep an eye on that. All right, have a good one. We'll see you guys out here tonight. Don't forget, member drawing is coming up tomorrow, so make sure you guys jump on board, please, and be a member. We're kicking out 3 winners this month. 3 winners. That's a decent chance out of 161 people. It might be a little bit higher now. But three winners coming up tomorrow. We'll see you guys tonight for the Sunday night update.